I was 27 when my own mother sold me as entertainment. Not for money, but for something even crueler: the pleasure of watching me break. They planned everything down to the smallest detail. The ridiculous dress, the overdone makeup, the invitation to the charity gala where New York's most coveted billionaire would be present. My sister Madison would film everything. My mother would make sure I couldn't refuse. And me? I'd be the night's show, the walking punchline who dared show up somewhere she didn't belong. What they didn't know is that some traps destroy the ones who build them. My name is Sophia Chen, and I've always been the daughter my mother pretended not to have. I grew up hearing that Madison inherited the family beauty: silky blonde hair, model body, smile that opened doors. I inherited the brains, which was the polite way of saying I had nothing else to offer. At 15, I stopped going to family parties. At 18, I accepted I'd always be the inconvenient comparison. At 25, I built a life where nobody needed to compare me to anyone. I worked as a freelance translator, lived in a tiny apartment in Brooklyn, and had 3 cats who didn't care about appearances. My parents lived on the Upper East Side with Madison, who at 23 already had hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers and a new boyfriend every season. It had been 6 months since I'd set foot in their house when my mother called on a rainy Tuesday. "Sophia, I need you to come to dinner with us on Saturday. It's important." Catherine Chen's voice didn't ask, it commanded. Even through the phone, I felt the weight of 27 years of maternal disappointment. "Mom, Saturday I have a translation deadline." "Cancel it. This is about family." Family. The word she used as a weapon whenever she needed me to bend. I took a deep breath, adjusting my glasses as they slid down my nose while rain pattered against the window. "What time?" "8 sharp. And Sophia?" She paused deliberately. "Wear something presentable. We'll have an important guest." She hung up before I could ask anything. I stared at my phone, feeling that familiar sense of inadequacy rise through my chest. My cat Tolstoy jumped onto my lap, purring. "Presentable," I murmured, stroking his orange head. As if any outfit could make me presentable to them. The Upper East Side apartment smelled of expensive perfume, and even more expensive expectations when I rang the doorbell on Saturday. My mother opened the door with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Sophia, you came." It wasn't a greeting, it was a statement of surprise. As if part of her expected me to be too cowardly to show up. I entered wearing my best dress, a simple navy blue one I'd bought 3 years ago for a cousin's wedding. My brown hair was tied in a bun, my glasses clean. I had tried. "Madison's in the living room," my mother said, guiding me down the hallway lined with family portraits where I rarely appeared. Richard too. Richard. My father. The man who'd learned decades ago to agree with whatever my mother decided. When I entered the living room, Madison was lounging on the beige velvet sofa, wearing a red dress that probably cost 3 months of my rent. She looked me up and down and smiled, not from happiness but from anticipated victory. "Hi, sis. It's been a while." "Madison." My father waved from the armchair, drinking scotch. The important guest hadn't arrived yet. "Sophia, sit down," my mother ordered, pointing to the chair furthest from the group. "We need to talk before he arrives." My stomach tightened. "Before who arrives?" Madison laughed, a high, artificial sound. "You didn't tell her, Mom? How cruel." Catherine ignored her favorite daughter and turned to me with that look that always preceded something terrible. "I secured an invitation to the Sterling Foundation Charity Gala. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Alexander Sterling himself will be there." "You know who he is?" Of course I knew. Everyone knew. Alexander Sterling, 34, heir to a tech empire, face on every business magazine. And single. "Mom, what does this have to do with me?" Madison leaned forward, practically vibrating with malice. "You're going as his date." The silence that followed was absolute. "This is ridiculous," I managed to say, feeling the blood drain from my face. My mother sat down elegantly, crossing her legs. "On the contrary, it's an opportunity. Alexander Sterling needs a date for tomorrow's benefit event. His assistant contacted several agencies and I offered to recommend someone." "You recommended me?" My voice came out louder than I intended. "Mom, you know me." "I don't." "Exactly why?" Madison stood up, grabbing her phone. "It's going to be hilarious. Alex expecting a model, a socialite, whatever, and you show up." The truth hit me like ice water. This wasn't an opportunity. It was an ambush. An elaborate joke where I was the punchline. "You're doing this on purpose," I whispered, looking at my father, who averted his eyes. "You want to humiliate me." "Don't be dramatic." my mother said, lighting a cigarette despite knowing I hated smoke. It's a charity event. You go, stay a few hours, take pictures. Then go back to your life of cats and books. Simple. And if I refuse? Catherine's smile disappeared completely. Then I'll make sure that little loan your father gave you, remember? For your apartment deposit. Gets called in. With interest. In full. By Monday. $20,000. That I didn't have. That would take years to save. You wouldn't do that. Test me and find out. Madison started laughing, filming my expression with her phone. This is going to blow up on social media. Awkward sister in the world of the rich. I'm already thinking of hashtags. I looked at the 3 people who were supposed to protect me, love me, and saw only mirrors reflecting my inadequacy back at me. When is the event? Tomorrow. 7 p.m. A driver will pick you up at 6. My mother blew smoke in my direction. And Sophia? Try not to embarrass yourself. Having you as a daughter is hard enough already. I left that house knowing the worst was yet to come. The dress arrived Sunday morning. A black box with a gold ribbon that seemed to be mocking me. Inside, a tight silver evening gown with a neckline I'd never wear. Heels that looked like torture devices. And a note from my mother. Don't disappoint me more than you already have. I spent the entire day nauseous. At 6 o'clock sharp, the driver rang my doorbell. A man in a black suit, professional, who treated me with more respect in 5 minutes than my family had in years. In the car, I tried to breathe, but the dress squeezed my ribcage like a prison of fabric and shame. The event was at the Rainbow Room, one of New York's most exclusive venues. When I stepped out of the car, the lights blinded me. Photographers, guests in formal wear, and me, out of place as always, stumbling in heels as I climbed the stairs. Inside, the ballroom was pure ostentation, crystal chandeliers, waiters serving champagne, beautiful people laughing at jokes that probably weren't funny. I searched for him, for Alexander Sterling, but there were so many people that. You must be the date. The voice came from behind. Deep, controlled. I turned and nearly twisted my ankle in the heels. Alexander Sterling was more impressive in person. Tall, dark hair slicked back, suit that probably cost more than my car. But it was his eyes that paralyzed me, dark brown, analytical, studying my face with an intensity that made me want to disappear. Ah, yes. Sophia. Sophia Chen. I extended my hand, and it visibly trembled. He looked at my hand for a second too long before shaking it. Alexander. My assistant mentioned you'd be coming. His expression was unreadable. I must admit, you weren't what I expected. And there it was. The confirmation. I wasn't what he expected because I wasn't pretty enough, interesting enough, worthy enough. Sorry to disappoint, I said, feeling tears burn behind my glasses. Something changed in his face. I didn't say I was disappointed. Alexander guided me through the ballroom with his hand firm, but not possessive on my back. People stared, of course they stared. The most desired man of the night with the date, who clearly didn't belong. You're trembling, he said quietly, taking 2 champagne flutes from a waiter. First time at an event like this? Is it that obvious? Only to those paying attention. He handed me the glass. And I always pay attention. I didn't drink. Couldn't trust my hands not to spill everything. Look, I know this is strange. I know you expected someone different. If you want me to leave, why would I want that? The question disarmed me. Because look at me. Look at this place. I don't belong here. Alexander tilted his head, studying my face with that disturbing intensity. Who told you that? That you don't belong? Everyone. My whole life. Then everyone is wrong. He said it so naturally as if it were fact, not opinion. Come. There's someone I want you to meet. He led me to an older woman, elegant, wearing an emerald green dress. Dr. Rebecca Morrison, this is Sophia Chen. Sophia, Dr. Morrison is chief of neurology at Mount Sinai. The woman smiled genuinely, the first real smile of the night. Pleasure, Sophia. Alexander told me you're a translator. I looked at him, confused. How did he know? Ah, yes. Freelance. What languages? English, French, German. I'm learning Russian. Dr. Morrison's eyes lit up. Russian. I've been trying to read Dostoevsky in the original for years. Is it as difficult as they say? And suddenly I was talking. Really talking. About literature, about the complexity of Russian language, about how crime and punishment loses nuances in translation. Alexander remained at my side silent, but I felt his eyes on me. When Dr. Morrison excused herself, I turned to him. Why did you do that? What? Introduce me as if I were someone important. Aren't you? He took a sip of champagne, his eyes never leaving mine. Sophia, can I ask you a question? I think so. Who really sent you here today? And right there, in that moment, I understood. He knew. He'd always known. I don't understand, I whispered, feeling the ballroom spin around me. Alexander gently took my arm, guiding me to a side terrace where the party noise became muffled. The view of New York stretched below us, millions of lights twinkling in the darkness. My assistant didn't request a date, he said calmly, leaning against the railing. Your mother called my office 3 times last week, insisting she had the perfect candidate. When I asked for a name, she said it would be a surprise. A surprise? He laughed without humor. Nobody surprises me without reason. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. So you knew it was a trap? I investigated. Catherine Chen, married to Richard Chen, 2 daughters. The younger is an influencer, the older. He looked directly at me. Never appears in family photos. Lives alone. Works in translation. And from your mother's hysterical insistence, clearly wasn't the daughter she wanted to introduce me to. The tears came without permission. So you knew. You knew I'd be the joke, and still. I wanted to meet the person an entire family conspires to destroy. His voice dropped lower. Sophia, I'm 34 with a net worth of $3 billion. You think I can't recognize a trap? Or cruelty disguised as opportunity? Why didn't you send me away? Because, he moved closer, and for the first time all night, I saw something beyond analytical curiosity in his eyes. I needed to know if you were accomplice or victim. And in the first 5 minutes, when you apologized for disappointing me, he shook his head. Nobody who's conspiring apologizes. Nobody who's in a trap cries for real. What are you going to do? The smile that formed on Alexander Sterling's face was dangerous. I'm going to destroy their plan. Completely. But I need your permission. My permission for what? To use their weapon against them. Your mother wants you publicly humiliated. He gently took my chin, making me face him. Let's give her exactly the opposite. Alexander brought me back to the ballroom, but this time, everything changed. He introduced me to everyone. And I mean everyone. The mayor. CEOs of multinational companies. Celebrities. And in each introduction he said the same thing. This is Sophia Chen, one of the most brilliant translators I know. It wasn't true. I was good at what I did, but not brilliant. But the way he said it, with that absolute confidence, made people believe. Made me believe. When dinner was served, he seated me beside him at the main table. Photographers captured everything. I saw, across the ballroom, my mother and Madison arriving late. They didn't have tickets, just a courtesy entrance my mother had begged the organization for. The expression on Catherine's face when she saw me seated next to Alexander, laughing at something he'd said, was something I'll treasure forever. She's watching us, I murmured. I know. Smile. During the opening speech, Alexander took my hand across the table. Didn't say anything, just held it, his fingers intertwined with mine. Cameras clicked. People whispered. When the event ended, he walked me to the car, but before I got in, he turned to the small group of photographers still present. Just for the record, his voice echoed clearly, Sophia is my date tonight and will be my date at all future events. Any publication suggesting otherwise will face legal problems. Understood. The photographers nodded frantically. In the car, I finally asked what had been consuming me. Why? Why are you doing this for me? Alexander looked out the window at the city lights. Because 2 years ago, I lost my younger sister. She was 23 when she killed herself. Know what the last thing she said to me was? His voice cracked. That she'd never be good enough. That her family would never accept her as she was. He turned to me, and I saw tears in his eyes. So when your mother called me, so proud of her little cruel plan, I decided I'd never stay silent while someone destroyed another person like that. Never again. The photos from that night went viral. Billionaire Alexander Sterling smitten with mysterious translator, read the headlines. My mother tried calling 47 times the first week. I blocked the number on the 48th. Madison posted a tearful video about how the family was destroyed. It got 16,000 likes and 1,000 comments calling her narcissistic. Alexander and me? We didn't fall in love that night. That would be too much of a fairy tale. But we built something better. A friendship based on understanding what it's like to be underestimated, rejected, used. He offered me a job translating for his company. Pays 3 times more than my freelance projects, and I work from home, with Tolstoy sleeping on my lap. Sometimes we go out. Sometimes we're photographed. Sometimes he holds my hand just to irritate my mother, who still reads every article about us. Today I received a letter from her, apologizing, saying she was wrong, that she wanted to get to know me again. I tore it up without finishing reading, because I learned that some people don't deserve second chances. And I finally deserve peace.